You're keeping up with your eye checkups and you're consistent with your medication, but do you ever wonder if there's more that you could be doing at home to ensure the best possible outcome for your eye condition? In this episode, Dr. Sophie Bakri joins us to share lifestyle choices that can help. I'm Ricky Yenger, and this is Hadley Presents. Welcome to the show, Dr. Bakri. I'm delighted to have you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we really appreciate it. I know that a question people often have is, surely there's more I could be doing. I feel like some of these things are out of my control, but maybe there are things that I really do have some say in that I could be doing. And before we get into that, I'm wondering if you could just tell us a bit about yourself, kind of your background, what you do.
So I'm Dr. Sophie Bakri. I'm a retinal surgeon and chair of ophthalmology at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. I've been in practice for about 20 years, and my practice focuses on diseases of the retina. So conditions like macular degeneration, diabetic retinopathy, retinal detachments, macular holes, epiretinal membranes, retinal vein occlusions, and many more. I've been fortunate to care for thousands of patients over the years. And one of the things I've learned is that preserving vision isn't only about treatments or surgeries, it's also about empowering patients to make daily choices that influence the course of their disease. And that's why I'm really excited about today's conversation.
Absolutely. You are the ideal person for us to be chatting with about this. So I know that every retinal disease is unique, but I'm sure that there are probably some things that are just going to be universally helpful for people to do. Can you talk about a few of those and why particularly those things are helpful for eye health?
Yeah, so there are definitely some universal lifestyle approaches, and many of them apply not to just ophthalmic disease, but general health as well. I think really the big one is don't smoke. Smoking doubles or triples the risk of vision loss from macular degeneration and worsens diabetic eye disease. And there have been many population studies, such as the Beaver Dam Eye Study and others, that have really shown this very clearly. So I think the data here is indisputable. Don't smoke. And also, you probably want to avoid secondhand smoke as well. The other thing is thinking about diet. Everybody has a certain number of calories they need or they'll consume. And within that, you want to eat a nutrient rich diet. So, in terms of the retina, think about leafy greens, fish high in omega 3s. And in particular, we think about salmon. Think about colorful fruits. I always tell my patients, eat the rainbow, the more colors, the better. And of course, colorful vegetables as well. And have a balanced diet. So think about eggs as well, nuts. And, if I was to sum it up, I would just say, think about a Mediterranean diet. So that, minimizes meat, minimizes sugars, and increases the amount of beans, pulses, vegetables, fruits, leafy greens. And of course, on the Mediterranean, they eat a lot of fish, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
The other thing is, think about staying active. I know it's harder for people as they get older, but we know that regular aerobic activity improves blood flow, it lowers blood pressure, and also supports diabetes management. And we know that improved glucose control reduces complications like diabetic retinopathy. And certainly, if mobility is a problem, think about some of the activities, talk to your doctor, physical therapists. Could you do something like swimming, for example? And don't underestimate the power of walking daily as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's not about the specific exercise, it's about the fact that you are being active in some way. And actually, that does bring me to another question I had, which was in particular about glaucoma. So I know that the idea is to keep the pressure down. Are there some do's and don'ts with that, whether it's for certain types of exercise that you should or shouldn't do? Maybe, certain things you shouldn't have a lot of caffeine or medications, that kind of thing?
Yes, so with glaucoma, there are two things with glaucoma. One is intraocular pressure, right? We talk about, keeping the pressure, lower. But the other is ensuring that there is good blood flow to the optic nerve as well. So in terms of, exercise, we recommend engaging in moderate aerobic exercise, and that really can lower intraocular pressure in the long term. And there have been many articles on that. Now, when it comes to some type of exercises like these yoga inversions and headstands, well, they can temporarily raise the eye pressure. So again, think about the type of exercise you do if you have glaucoma. And, regarding caffeine, it's not a no. Just, don't drink a lot of caffeine in one sitting because you could get a rise in eye pressure from that.
What about for diabetic retinopathy? And I think you've touched on some of this a bit already, talking about, managing that glucose level and managing your blood flow. Are there some things particular to diabetic retinopathy that we might not see with other conditions that are going to have a big impact?
Yeah, so with diabetic retinopathy, that's influenced also by having high blood pressure and cholesterol. So three things, need to be controlled at the same time to lower the risk of progression of diabetic retinopathy. So it's definitely a partnership here with your primary care doctor. You need tight blood sugar control, but obviously, not so tight that you drop your sugars and that causes, problems. But you want to lower the A1C over the long term to reduce the progression of diabetic retinopathy. Also, blood pressure control as well, really, really important, as is, cholesterol management. And as you know, you can get monitors for blood glucose. You can get these continuous glucose monitors, which I'm seeing more and more of my patients have. They link to their phone and give them alerts, and they like to be able to monitor, what they ate and what happened after they ate. And certainly, many patients have a blood pressure cuff at home, and some measure it more than once a day. And cholesterol management can be difficult in some patients, but if you start with diet, certainly a Mediterranean diet, as we discussed, that can really help with cholesterol management. But some patients need more. They need statins and other drugs to lower the cholesterol. And that actually lowers the cholesterol deposits that we call hard exudates that happen in the macula in diabetic retinopathy. And then again, exercise and smoking, these are just universal things that are good for eyes and good for health.
Absolutely. So, what about with macular degeneration? I think one of the most common things we hear, there are commercials about it, people come to us and ask about it, is a regimen of vitamins that might be particularly helpful for MACD. So, can you speak to that? Is there a regimen that's really helpful? And aside from that, are there some additional things with macular degeneration that people should consider?
Yeah, so I get asked this a lot by patients, but also, by their families as well. And, if you don't have macular degeneration, we just recommend a healthy diet. Now, there's a certain level of macular degeneration, and that's intermediate age related macular degeneration, where you have drusen in both eyes, or if you have advanced macular degeneration, that's the type of patient that could benefit from a special formulation known as the AREDS 2 formula. Now, AREDS stands for the Age Related Eye Disease Study. And that was a very large NIH sponsored clinical trial that was run by the National Eye Institute, published in 2013. And that was a follow up from the original AREDS trial. So we have now AREDS and AREDS 2. And the original AREDS trial, again, showed that there's a certain combination of vitamins and minerals that can slow the progression of intermediate to advanced age related macular degeneration. And so, talking about this formulation, well, there was the original AREDS formula, and that had, certain doses of vitamin C, E, beta carotene, zinc, and copper. And then AREDS 2 trial modified this because the beta carotene was found to increase lung cancer risk in smokers and former smokers. And the high dose zinc sometimes, just caused a tummy upset. And so, yes, that was modified then to the AREDS 2 formula. And so those were removed, and lutein, zeaxanthin were added. But one of the most common questions, I get is, well, shall I continue taking these? Are they working? Well, they slow down the disease. They don't they don't stop it completely. Many patients are on it and then they still get even more advanced macular degeneration. And that's tough. But, it reduces the progression by about 25% or so, over 5 years. Doesn't restore any lost vision. It's only slowing it some. So you can still get the wet macular degeneration and more advanced disease.
And what if someone has just been diagnosed with dry macular degeneration and it hasn't really progressed yet? Would you say it's a good idea for them to start at that point, or will it really make a difference just once it reaches that intermediate stage?
The studies have shown that for early macular degeneration, that's when you have a few drusen in the retina, it hasn't been shown to help. And the biggest benefits really from the intermediate stage and beyond. So, for the earlier stages, I recommend just a multivitamin and healthy diet. Many patients really haven't taken the healthy diet seriously. They're still eating whatever they please. And I know we're all guilty of that. But at least, bringing this type of thing top of mind, especially when people they want to do something to help it. I think of it like a prescription, right? It's a prescription, for a diet. And it all starts when you first wake up in the morning. What is that choice that you're going to make right at the beginning? Is it going to be eggs and spinach and fruit? Or is it going to be a sugary pastry, for example? And that can often determine, how the rest of the day goes. So I think that awareness is really, really important.
Absolutely. I love the way you put that. Just waking up, what choice are you going to make? And that does kind of determine how the rest of the day may play out. It's probably, we hear so much about diet and exercise that it becomes kind of a background thing that we all know we should do, but we'll get to it someday. But if we put that in this perspective of this really can make a difference and it is something within your control. I'm wondering as we wrap up here, if people are listening to this and they're thinking, I would like to know of any additional studies there have been about vitamins or any recommendations that are beyond this podcast. Maybe they're just looking for that sort of safe place to go to get these kinds of recommendations. Do you have a couple of resources that you might mention?
Yes. So good references, the societies that we work with in retina, like the American Society of Retina Specialists, for example, puts out really good patient information, patient leaflets that are funded by their foundation. And I often give those out to patients. You have the National Eye Institute that also has resources and videos. But also, there's the American Academy of Ophthalmology, and they have a website called iSmart as well. And Mayo Clinic also, we have a lot of information that we put out in terms of, patient education. And I was, fortunate to be able to write the Mayo Clinic book on vision. And we're doing a new edition. So that has a lot of things. We've got videos out there and a podcast as well that have some information. But you may actually just want to go to the source. And sometimes you want to actually look up those articles. And PubMed, PUBMED.com, is the National Library of Medicine's online journal repository. And you can look up there the AREDS 2 trial that was published in 2013. And if you want to read everything about it, the whys and all the data, I think that's important. The diabetic trials, you've got the DCCT trials as well that talk about diabetes control and diabetic retinopathy progression. So, I mean, there's a lot out there, but I do think it's important to find some credible sources. So, I mean, these are all the types of sites that I tell my patients about, and often, I'm able to link to them in the electronic medical records so they can click on them at their own pace when they go home. But yes, definitely credible sites is what you want to look for. You'll see a lot of videos out there claiming certain things, and I would just say you might want to be a little bit careful about where some of the stuff comes from.
Absolutely. You're so right about that. And we will have those links to the resources that Dr. Bakri has just mentioned in our show notes. So if you're looking for kind of that one stop shopping for a place to start, at least we'll have those in the show notes. Dr. Bakri, I really want to thank you for stopping by and sharing all of this wonderful information. I think it's so helpful for people who are just looking for that way to really make some smart decisions and to kind of figure out what those smart decisions are for making sure that they get the best outcome for the eye condition. Really, thank you again for spending a little time with us, and I appreciate your dropping by.
Well, thank you so much, and I just want to extend a heartfelt, huge thank you to Hadley. I mean, the work that you do for people with vision loss is just extraordinary. You're providing information, but also, hope. And I've had so many patients of mine who've benefited from Hadley's resources, just learning, from you, from your site and staying connected with others, and I think you've made people feel a lot less alone. So thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you. Wow, we love to hear that. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Got something to say? Share your thoughts about this episode of Hadley Presents or make suggestions for future episodes. We'd love to hear from you. Send us an email at podcast@hadleyhelps.org. That's podcast at hadleyhelps.org. Or leave us a message at 847-784-2870. Thanks for listening.